treason, cover-up, the auto pen. These aren't just political punchlines. They are the core of a firestorm now erupting across media outlets and political circles alike. Fox News calls it worse than Watergate. President Trump has labeled it treason. The accusation that while Joe Biden held the title of President of the United States of America, others were pulling the strings, signing key documents using an auto pen, shielding the public from the truth of his decline, operating the White House like a boardroom controlled by a shadow board of unelected directors. If that's true, who was on that board pulling the strings? And whether you see this as a scandal, spectacle, or strategic spin, one thing is clear. This story is a leadership masterclass in disguise, and there are some really important takeaways for you. Because this is not just about politics, it's about perception, power, and having a plan. This is Strategic Basics, where we turn breaking news into business breakthroughs. And I am Aurora Winter, founder of Same Page Publishing and the author of several books, including Turn Words into Wealth. Let's get into this. This is not just a political news cycle, it's a wake-up call. Former President Biden's cognitive decline, his limited work hours, missed medical screenings, and the increasing role of his inner circle, all documented by multiple news sources, raise a critical question, not just about the White House, but about leadership in general. What happens when a leader loses command? When he or she dies or is ill? Who steps in, and how is that best handled? This isn't just about Biden, it's about you. I know from personal experience that tomorrow is not guaranteed. My husband died suddenly when he was only 33, and our son was only 4 years old. My husband died with his will in his briefcase because we thought we would have tomorrow to take care of that documentation and sort things out, but we did not. So this news story is not just about Joe Biden and politics, and by the way, I wish him all the best with recovering with his cancer prognosis. But let's break down how this story is unfolding and what this means for you today. Here's what we know. Reports from both conservative and mainstream outlets describe President Biden's cognitive decline going back several years. The newly released book, called Original Sin, President Biden's Decline, Its Cover-Up, and His Disastrous Choice to Run Again, by Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson, published May 2025 by Penguin Press, deepens the narrative. Based on nearly 200 interviews with Democratic insiders, the book claims that Biden's inner circle recognized his decline, but chose denial, gaslighting, and message control instead of stepping in. According to the authors, this original sin not only deceived the public, it cost the Democrats the 2024 election. We also know that many in the media, previously dismissive of concerns, are now expressing alarm, and we also know that insiders claim Joe Biden's schedule was limited to working 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., which are quite restricted hours for the President of the United States, and that staff acted as gatekeepers. We also know that the auto pen, a symbol of administrative delegation, has become a flashpoint for deeper concern. Was Biden really leading or simply signing what others put in front of him? That's Trump's hypothesis. Harris Faulkner from Fox News put it bluntly, quote, "If the presidency was operated like a board of directors, who was the CEO?" That's the messaging crisis. It's not just about what was said, it's about who was in charge. Look, there are 3 strategic insights that every leader can take from this moment. Number 1, visibility without clarity breeds suspicion. When people see you but don't understand you, they fill in the blanks, sometimes with admiration, sometimes with doubt, and sometimes, like now, with conspiracy theories. That's why a clear message is not optional, it's armor. Number 2, abdication always backfires. When leaders check out, whether physically, emotionally, or strategically, they lose the moral authority to lead. Delegating is wise, but abdicating is fatal. And number 3, plan your exit strategy. Sure, you're sharp now, driven, at the helm, but what happens when you're not? Do you have an exit strategy? Have you made your will, assigned power of attorney, created a trust, established who can make decisions if or when you can't? Warren Buffett is an example to model. During Berkshire Hathaway's annual shareholders meeting on May 3rd, 2025, Warren Buffett announced that he plans to step down as CEO at the end of 2025. Greg Abel, currently vice chairman, has long been named as his successor. Whether you're 45 or 75, your legacy depends on decisions made today about what happens tomorrow. Don't leave your message or your business vulnerable to confusion or a vacuum of power. Warren Buffett's legacy will endure because he planned it that way. But what about you? Legacy isn't something you leave behind for someday. It's something you build strategically, starting now. So in closing, whether you're running a country or a company, the same truth applies. You must lead your message, or somebody else will lead a message without you. The Biden firestorm isn't just about age or politics or health. It's about power, perception, and the invisible hand that takes the wheel when leaders check out, whether intentionally or not. So here's your opportunity. Reclaim your voice, reaffirm your leadership, and reinforce your legacy with a great plan. Because the most powerful asset in business today isn't capital, it's clarity. From breaking news to business breakthroughs, this is Strategic Basics, and I'm Aurora Winter, founder of Same Page Publishing and author of Turn Words into Wealth. You can grab a gift copy of Turn Words into Wealth at turnwordsintowealth.com. Learn how to monetize your message. The hidden cost of going viral. What Cory Booker's 25-hour Senate speech might have really cost taxpayers. Let's take a look. Cory Booker spoke for 25 hours in a Senate speech that captured headlines, hashtags, and hearts. But it also raised eyebrows, and not just from political opponents. While his team masterfully turned the speech into a viral moment on TikTok, pulling in millions of views and hundreds of thousands of followers, others are asking a different question. What did it cost? This episode of Strategic Basics isn't here to cheer or condemn. We're here to analyze strategy, and any serious strategy means examining both returns and the investment. So let's talk about the hidden cost of going viral from the Senate floor. The price tag of time in Washington. The U.S. Senate is one of the most expensive institutions in the country to run. While there's no official itemized hourly rate available, we can work with some well-established numbers. And yes, these are estimates, so take that with a grain of salt. But anyway, each U.S. senator earns about $174,000 per year. There are 100 senators making total salaries $17.4 million annually. Staff, operations, security, and facilities across the Senate easily exceed $800 million per year. The Senate is in session around 1,500 hours a year, so the estimated hourly cost of Senate operations is around $500,000 per hour, or $533,000 per hour. Multiply that by 25 hours, and Senator Booker's speech may have cost American taxpayers approximately $13.3 million in direct and indirect expenses. Whew! If we estimate conservatively, a 24-hour period in the Senate likely runs upwards of $12 to $13 million. And that doesn't really count the overtime for people being up all night. Opportunity cost. What didn't happen? Economists define not only cost, not only as what you spend, but what you didn't get because you spent it elsewhere. You spent the money, you spent the time. I know my MBA is showing here. I'm Aurora Winter and I have an MBA. Bear with me. I think you'll find this interesting. So this brings us to opportunity cost. Booker's marathon speech filled the chamber with powerful stories, personal reflections, and a strong stance against Republicans and Trump's agenda. But it also meant no legislative votes during that time, no committee work, staffers and security were on overnight duty, and media attention was diverted from other Senate work. If you are a taxpayer footing the bill, and you are, if you're an American, you have the right to ask, was that the best use of a day in the world's most powerful legislative body? Not everyone was impressed. While Vanity Fair called it a TikTok masterclass and The Guardian praised Booker's moral stand, others were not so kind. The New York Post labeled the speech as a pointless imitation filibuster and said it epitomizes Democrats' pathetic incoherence, end quote. In their April 2 letters column, readers blasted the senator for grandstanding, suggesting he should try representing New Jersey instead of performing for TikTok. Ooh. A White House spokesman also dismissed Booker's criticism. Quote, Cory Booker is looking for another I am Spartacus moment, but that didn't work for his failed presidential campaign, and it didn't work to block President Trump's Supreme Court nominee, Brett Kavanaugh, end quote, said Deputy White House Press Secretary Harrison Fields. Booker, a former mayor of Newark, New Jersey, had made a run for the Democratic presidential nomination in 2020, the year that Trump ultimately lost his bid for re-election to Joe Biden. From that perspective, the $13 million spent doesn't just seem expensive, it seems wasteful. So let's look at the value argument. Was it worth it? Let's find out. Supporters argue that visibility and inspiration are legitimate forms of value. Booker's speech gave voice to concerns over Gaza, although he spoke about that very little. He was criticized, actually, for not talking about it enough in his 25 hours. And he did express concern over Trump, Democratic backsliding, etc., etc. The viral TikToks may have energized young voters. His quote, which I found very moving, "If America hasn't broken your heart lately, you don't love her enough," went mega viral and struck a chord. But here's the strategic question. Did that attention translate into meaningful change? Did it translate into action? There was no immediate policy shift, no new legislation, no bipartisan agreement, just awareness. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes it's not. Was it a strategy or was it a stunt? The line between strategic communication and political theater can be razor thin. Yes, Booker's TikTok launch was timed perfectly. His team understood platform-native storytelling and emotional content. It checked all the boxes for a communications win. But in the absence of policy outcomes, critics ask, was this just a stunt? Because strategy isn't just about grabbing attention, it's about what you do with that attention. So here are 3 questions you can ask before your next big message. Number 1, what's the opportunity cost of doing this? What won't get done because this takes time, focus, and resources? Question number 2, will this moment feed my ego? Will it create meaningful action? Or is it just something I'm doing to feed my own political agenda or personal agenda? Question number 3, I think this is a really good one to consider. What is the best possible outcome and the worst possible outcome? And then you can weigh the cost against the best and worst. So when I took my MBA in 2015 in Italy, we were always looking for what valuable results might be triggered if this is a brilliant success, and what costs might be incurred if this turns out to be a complete waste of time. In other words, don't just chase the spotlight. Know why you're stepping into it. What is the prize? What is the cost? So in conclusion, was this moment worth millions? Booker's 25-hour speech will certainly be remembered. He set a new record, and so definitely something he can brag about for years to come. It made headlines. It moved many people emotionally. It set a new benchmark for social-first political storytelling. But it also cost millions and delivered no legislation, no new action. Was it worth it? That depends on what kind of return you expect from your leaders. As strategic basics, we believe good strategy isn't just bold, it is accountable. It is economically viable. I'm an entrepreneur, so we have to ask the return on investment questions. Anyway, if you found this breakdown and these insights useful, please follow more strategic basics. We cover how strategy works, whether it's expensive, whether it's a good ROI, and some tips and questions that you can use in your life and your business.